Hello, hello. Welcome back, wonderful people, to another Chris McPherson Show. Daily dose as we start to talk about the US Open and start to turn our eyes towards the second week, although we're not quite there just yet. But names and numbers are falling as we continue on through this US Open campaign. We're seeing more and more of the seeds start to fall, and it was a tough day, certainly for seeds on both the men's and women's side of the draw. When we talk about the men's side of the draw, we saw Francis Tiafoe fall, and then we saw Ben Shelton have to retire against Adrian Manarino. When they went to 2 sets all, it looked, after he hurt that left shoulder, that Shelton was going to try and push on and try and claim it in the fourth set. But once Manarino pushed through, took the fourth set, he realised he wasn't going to be able to compete and dig deep for another whole set. And unfortunately, that did mean that Shelton retired, giving Manarino a walkthrough and into the last 16 for Manarino, which is great to see for him. His efforts rewarded, and he continues on. Jan-Lennard Struff knocked out Francis Tiafoe in straight sets. A bit of a disappointment there for the home crowd. Two of their seeds going out. Good news for them, though. Taylor Fritz managed to win through in 4 sets against the Swiss Kim. Other seeds going through. Yuri Lehechka got a win. Carlos Alcaraz knocked out Darderi. So we're starting to see seeds take each other out. Thomas Mahatch having a win as well. And Arthur Rinderknecht won the all-French battle there in the men's tournament. So well done to all those winners. On the women's side, more seeds falling. The straightforward ones, Arena Sabalenka taking out Leylah Fernandez. The number one seed marches on in straight sets. Emma Navarro went down to Barbora Krejcikova. Krejcikova continued to march forward. Christina Buxer took out Elisa Mertens. Marketa Vondrousova took out Jasmine Paolini. 6-1, just blew her away. Speaking of blowing away, Elena Rybakina mirrored her first clash with Emma Raducanu. It was many years ago, but 1-2, the former US Open winner didn't stand a chance against Rybakina. She absolutely blasted her off Louis Armstrong Stadium. Jessica Pegula was clinical against Victoria Azarenka, so good to see her starting to build somewhere there. And Taylor Townsend beating Mira Andreeva in straight sets after all of the controversy that surrounded Townsend's last match against Elena Ostapenko. She continued to march on, gets through to the last 16, which is a great showing for her. Great to see a few Americans going through. One American, though, that we didn't necessarily want to see go through was Anne Lee, but she gets through to the last 16 for the first time in her career, knocking out Aussie Priscilla Hon, who was into the third round for the first time for herself. Did think she might have had a chance there, but she went down 7-5, 6-3. So Lee is into the next round. So, again, we're starting to see quite a lot of seeds drop in these tournaments. The women's list is absolutely whittled down. The men's list, we've got 3 of the top 10 gone. We've got 16 in total of the seeds gone. So those that are left, Sinner, Alcaraz, Zverev, and Fritz, all the top 4. Djokovic and De Minaur 7 and 8. Mazzetti at 10. Then we lost 11, 12, 13. Tommy Paul and Andrei Rublev left in the teens. They are the only teens left. We then go down and we've got a cluster. Yuri Lehechka and Thomas Mahatch, the 2 Czechs. Alex Bublik at 23. Flavio Caboli at 24. The Canadian pair then of 25 and 27, Felix Auger-Aliassime and Denis Shapovalov, who we'll talk about today, both still in the competition. On the women's side, again, the top 4 seeds all still there, but then it is an absolute casualty ward. Down in the 20s, we've got 5 players in the 20s. In the teens, again, just 4 players there, and then just 2 others in the top 10. So it's really starting to whittle down. We're down to 15, less than half of the seeds left. As I said, Sabalenka, Swiatek, Goff, and Pegula, the top 4 all there. Anisimova and Rybakina, and the next 2 at 8 and 9. Mukova at 11, Alexandrova at 13, Daria Kasatkina, who we'll talk about shortly, the Aussie dasher, at 15, Beatrice Haddad-Maia at 18. Then we go down to Noskova and Osaka at 21 and 23. We'll talk about Osaka soon. Marta Kostyuk, Magdalena Freck, and Anna Kalinskaya. So they're the seeds that are left. It's starting to really open up when we look at the draws, and it'll be interesting to see how we go in the final 16. The good thing is for American fans, you're guaranteed someone through to the quarterfinals because Jessica Pegula will take on Anne Lee in one of the 4th-round matchups. Taylor Townsend a chance as well. Certainly starting to look a little interesting. There's some really intriguing matchups already shaping the 4th round. We'll determine a lot more of them as we head into day 7 of the tournament. So really exciting, really looking forward to picking that apart. And, of course, the way we do pick that apart each and every day at the moment is we start with Aussie Watch, and I mentioned it before. We have Daria Kasatkina. She comes up against former four-time Grand Slam champion, Naomi Osaka. So we've got two of the seeds coming head-to-head, the 15th seed up against the 23rd seed. Really looking forward to seeing how this one will play out. Kasatkina spent a lot more time on court. Osaka got through her last match in just on an hour, nearly 2.5 for Kasatkina to battle through. Look, Osaka in a lot better form, although we did see those demons that could haunt her come to roost in Canada only a few weeks ago. But Osaka has a 2-0 record against Kasatkina, 2024. She beat her in Rome on clay way back in 2018 when we had Naomi Osaka version 1.0. We won the final at Indian Wells against Daria Kasatkina. So, look, this is an interesting one. Osaka, as I said, she's been in really good form. She's been clinical here so far, knocking out Greet Minnen and Hayley Baptiste, 3-4, 3-1, only having dropped 11 games to this point. When we have a look at Kasatkina on the other side, she has had a very different run. That last match against Kamila Rakimova, not her best performance, but she did get through 6-2, 4-6, 7-5. So you have to think on form, on the way they've been playing so far here at Flushing Meadows, that Osaka's probably in the box seat for this one. Kasatkina, we know at her best, she can be a real handful, but again, she's just really struggled to get, to the last 16 and beyond at these Grand Slams, and she hasn't really got any form on the board to talk about on the hard courts. She's, lost first opportunity at Cincinnati. She lost in the second opportunity at Montreal to Marta Kuschuk. This is just not the Dasha Kasatkina that we saw in 2022 and 2023 when she was really starting to get to her best. Even in 2024, she just hasn't really gelled. As we talked about with Christian Monaghan from the first serve, she really seems to have struggled a little bit with the expectation that's come with being the number one player from Australia. Obviously, Russia, a plethora of strong tennis players. Australia, not as many in the top 50 or top 100. And so because of that, she's really carrying quite a load, Dasha. I think there's an opportunity for Osaka to continue to show that Naomi Osaka 2.0 or 3.0, whatever you'd like to refer to, is on the march and is, pushing towards those higher rankings again. So I've got Osaka actually taking this one out. I think Kasatkina will give it to her a little early, but if Osaka can take that early resistance, she'll get this done in straight sets. If not, then it might go to 3. But again, I've got Naomi Osaka going through in this one and really looking forward to seeing this clash on Louis Armstrong Arena. It's going to be an absolute cracker, that is for sure. While we're still on Aussie Watch, we head to the men's, and Christian talked about this the other day. Alex de Minaur comes up against Daniel Altmaier. Altmaier knocked out Stefanos Tsitsipas. This is huge for Alex de Minaur. He had a very poor record against Tsitsipas. He'd been one of his bogey men alongside Yannick Sinner. The good news, Altmaier has spent 9 hours on court. His last match, nearly 4.5 hours to get past Tsitsipas. Alex de Minaur has been clinical. 2 hours his last match, his first match in hour 53. He's been showing his best. He's in really strong form. Altmaier, back-to-back wins for the first time in quite a while in this tournament. So, again, I'm not taking too much from their head-to-head form. It was indoor hard court just the once earlier this year in Rotterdam, where de Minaur won 1 and 4. But overall, everything points to de Minaur winning here. We know that doesn't mean a lot at all times in Grand Slams because it is a big moment, a big occasion, and about who handles it better, and Altmaier clearly did that. de Minaur needs to get this done short and sharp, I think. This is his opportunity. Out on court 17, out in the back blocks. It's a chance for him just to get the march on, get the jump on Altmaier. Ranked outside the top 50, he'll be looking to get inside the top 50 and start to close towards the seedings with another win here and pushing through into the last 16. But I've got de Minaur just absolutely just doing his best here, continuing on the form that has seen him across the opening rounds, not drop a set so far. We saw him 3-4-4 against O'Connell, 2-4-2 against Mochizuki. I'm expecting something similar to that first round match, maybe 4-3-3, 4-3-5, something like that. de Minaur to get this one done in straight sets and hopefully ensure we've got at least one Aussie. I'd love to see Dasha there as well, but I don't hold high hopes. At least one Aussie getting through to the last 16. We need de Minaur there. We need him pushing hopefully on to maybe even the quarterfinals for him. That'd be a great showing, I think, from de Minaur. Obviously, when you look at the draw and what shapes for him from here, that is the big question. It's opened up, though, with Hachinov having been knocked out, Cerundolo out, Tsitsipas out. He's the only seed left in his quarter. So, I mean, it potentially shapes that, he could go through and he'll play the winner of Masharash and Reedy, the qualifier from Switzerland, who knocked out Cerundolo in 5 sets. Both of those have taken a toll in getting there. And then potentially a Rublev or a Zverev or a Felix Auger-Aliassime when we get through to the quarterfinals. That means it's potentially opening up, and I could see, a case for arguing, depending how Zverev shapes up against Auger-Aliassime, that, maybe he's a chance of pushing through to not only a quarterfinal, but maybe a semi-final here. And obviously that would most likely mean a semi-final matchup with Yannick Sinner, but we don't want to start looking too far ahead and looking at those matchups. He's got a couple of matches to go, and he's still got to get past Altmaier here, who has taken out Medjedovic and Tsitsipas thus far. So I'm going to go Demonor to get this one done in straight sets. As I said, I'm going to go 4, 3, and 5, something like that, and get one Aussie into the last 16 for us. That's what we're certainly hoping and praying for. Speaking of Alexander Zverev, we're going to now move on. Obviously, they're the only two Aussies in singles action at the moment. We're going to talk about Alexander Zverev. He comes up against Felix Auger-Aliassime, the 3rd seed, up against the 25th seed. It's an interesting one. These ones, Auger-Aliassime has been much hyped, much vaunted for a long time. He'll have some solid support here. We know that Alexander Zverev is quite often the villain after everything that's gone on in his personal life. A lot of crowds like to turn on him. So the Louis Armstrong faithful, the Americans will get behind the Canadian, you'd expect here. Zverev's been in pretty good touch. He had a very slow start to the year, but has been really strong since then. A really good hard court swing as well. We're starting to see the best of him. These guys have played quite a lot. They haven't played since 2024 when they played at the Miami Open, and I think that gives us some pointers when you have a look at that. Auger-Aliassime has previously beaten Zverev on hard courts. If we go back to 2022 at the ATP Cup, that's the only win he's got. But again, these guys have played each other 8 times. Auger-Aliassime just 2 wins. He has beaten Zverev at Wimbledon in 2021. But again, I think we're drawing a long bow looking at anything more than that clash in Miami early last year. Zverev is really strong on the hard courts. We know that. He likes the bounce. He likes the ball coming onto the racket. Auger-Aliassime will give him power, and he'll give him a good matchup. And Auger-Aliassime, not in his worst form. He got to the quarterfinals at Cincinnati where he went down to Yannick Sinner. Equally, Zverev went to the semifinals there where he lost to Alcaraz, who ended up going on to win it. So both of them clearly outclassed in those matches in straight sets. But we know Alcaraz and Sinner at the moment are a very different class of tennis players. So it's an interesting one. As I said, Zverev is public enemy number 1 for a lot. I think he's going to match up really well here. I think that Auger-Aliassime might take a set for him, but I'm going to go Zverev in 3 or 4. The form that he's had so far in this tournament's really impressed me. He's done a really good job of the matchups that he's had. Alejandro Tabio, he got through him in 2, 6, and 4, and then 4, 4, and 4 against Fernley. Just clinical, getting it done, doing enough. But again, you have the other side. Auger-Aliassime also in straight sets. Easy job against Harris. Got out of the blocks hard against Safulin. This is going to be a really good matchup. I'm going to go Zverev. Let's go 4 sets for Zverev. Maybe Auger-Aliassime gets the second set from him. Zverev will come out fast. Auger-Aliassime's going to have to start even faster. He's going to have to get Zverev on the back foot, take the first 2 sets and really push on from there. I feel if Auger-Aliassime's going to get there, he's going to have to go the distance, maybe 4 or 5, and just see if he can dig deeper in the hurt locker than Zverev can. But certainly looking forward to this one. It's going to be an absolute cracker. There's going to be some really good matches as we head into the 3rd and 4th rounds here. Speaking of that, the next one, Tommy Paul, the 14th seed, comes up against the 23rd seed, Alexander Bublik. Paul has absolutely dug deep. He's made it hard work to get to here, but we know, again, he's going to have all the American fans behind him, and he's going to be really ready to march on. Bublik, in the meanwhile, he is on an absolute heater in terms of a winning record. He has won his last 11 matches. He is absolutely flying at the moment, Bublik. It's been a phenomenal season from him. It's just he's won 2 tournaments back to back. The last time he lost was in the first round of Wimbledon to Jean Mounard. But since then, as I said, he's gone on to a 10-match winning streak at Gstaad and then Kitzbühel. Playing on clay, though, so we know the hard court's not his favourite surface. When we have a look at the other side, Tommy Paul probably hasn't been in his best form. Cincinnati, he lost to Adrian Manarino, who we're seeing is a real challenge, but he's going quite well here. He got out of the blocks hard against Elmer Moller of Denmark, 3-3 and 1, but then got drawn into an arm wrestle with the challenging and tricky Nuno Borges. We talked about him a couple of days ago. He got up 2 sets to love and then slipped with a couple of late breaks in the 3rd and 4th set before closing it out 7-5 in the 5th. But that's going to mean he's taken a toll. The one thing he will have is he's going to have a huge home crowd behind him. As I say, these guys have played before. They played in Miami this year. Tommy Paul got it done in 3 there. played at Wimbledon last year. Again, Tommy Paul got it done there. Bublik's only ever won once against Tommy Paul, and we have to go all the way back to qualifying at the Fever Tree Championships in 2019 in London. So, again, every time they've played on hard courts, Tommy Paul's got it done. I think Tommy Paul's going to get this one done. Bublik will give him some challenges, but I'm going to go Tommy Paul to win this one. I think he's going to go deep again. He likes to go long. Arthur Ashe Stadium, the crowd behind him. It's going to be a big late night match. I'm going to go Tommy Paul to get this done in 5 sets. Can't wait for this one. This one's going to be a great way to close out the day, and it's going to be huge. Finally, talking men's matches, let's head to Arthur Ashe Stadium earlier in the day. Yannick Sinner going for the day match again. He comes up against the other Canadian, Denis Shapovalov. Shapovalov, the 27th seed. Again, this all points to Yannick Sinner continuing his march. He's absolutely in red-hot form. He and Alcaraz are both there. The only loss in his last 10 was that walkover against Alcaraz in the final there in Cincinnati, where he did have to retire. Obviously, he won the Grand Slam at Wimbledon before that. So he's in really strong form. He's been clinical so far. He has only dropped 4 games in his first match and 7 in his second. So 11 games dropped in his 2 matches so far, taking out Capriva and Popperin. And as we know, Popperin was only just ranked outside of the seedings. The wins for Shapovalov, Fucsovics in straight sets, and then he dropped a set against Royer the second set, then took 2 sets in a tiebreak. He's going to have to rely a lot on his serve here. I just don't see that the matchup falls in favour of him. I can't really find a narrative or an argument that helps. And so I'm going to be going Sinner just to blow Shapovalov off the court. And unfortunately for the Canadians, I think there's a likelihood that both of their seeded players are knocked out of this, coming up against top 3 seeds in Zverev and Sinner. It's a tough draw, just like a lot of the Aussies had. But Shapovalov's got to where his ranking projected him to in terms of the 3rd round here. And now he has to come up against Yannick Sinner in a tough game. Really looking forward to how this one shapes. And I think, again, Sinner will get this one done in straight sets. So he'll march on and continue towards what is a projected final for almost everyone of Sinner versus Alcaraz. Let's now move over to the women's side of the draw, and let's talk about the 18th seed in the women's, Beatrice Haddad-Maia, coming up against the former world number 3, Maria Sakkari. And a lot of people questioned Sakkari's, credentials when she got to the top 3. She hadn't won a lot of tour tournaments. Certainly hadn't won any Grand Slams or really, driven to the absolute peak and depths. But again, you can have a look at Beatrice Haddad-Maia and her season so far and question how she is still managing to maintain a ranking around the 20 mark. It's an interesting one. Sakkari has been strong in this tournament so far. Haddad-Maia has had to work a lot harder for that. So when we look at these pieces, it's an interesting one. It's an interesting matchup. Sakkari, well outside of the seedings at the moment. Neither of them winning records on hard courts, but Haddad-Maia has won just 4 matches on hard courts this season, including the first 2 rounds here. The big thing that works in Haddad-Maia's favour, the fact that she's got a 4-0 record against Sakkari. So that is really leaning towards Haddad-Maia maybe having the mental edge. And Sakkari's someone who, without wanting to get too critical, I think has battled at times with the mental side of the game. But she's been off to a flyer here. She knocked out Tatiana Maria, 3-2, and a Bondar from Hungary, 3-1. Not massive scalps, but neither of those of Haddad-Maia on this, to this point. She took 3 sets to get past Sane Cartel. She then got past Victoria Golubic from Switzerland in 2 sets. But again, she has a losing record on almost every surface this season. It has been one of her worst seasons on tour. You have to date back to 2018 to see anything that was anywhere close to it. It's, again, we just haven't been convinced by her. She lost to Maya Joint in Cincinnati. She lost to Susan Leymans in Montreal. We didn't see the best of her on the grass of Wimbledon. Monterey last week, she went out to Buzkova in the first match. Whereas when we have a look at the losses for Sakkari, where she's gone out of these tournaments, she lost to Raducanu in Washington, where Raducanu was in good form. She lost to Pegula, Paolini, Vekic. These are top 20 style players. I think Sakkari's form is starting to bend in the right direction. And I'm actually going to go Sakkari to get this one done in 3 sets, break the 4-love record that Haddad-Maia has, and push herself through to the last 16 here. And certainly looking forward to seeing the old Maria Sakkari and a bit of a march from her, because this is really starting to shape well for her in terms of this tournament. If she can get through to the last 16 here, it probably means a matchup with Amanda Anisimova. But again, I don't hate that matchup for her. I think Anisimova will go in as a very warm favourite, especially with the home crowd behind her. But it means we're starting to see the best of Sakkari, and I would actually pitch Sakkari to take her to 3 sets. So we'll see how that one shapes. But in the meantime, I've got Maria Sakkari knocking out another seed here in terms of the 18th seed. Not just that, well, she hasn't knocked out a seed yet, but another seed to fall, I should say, in the Brazilian and Beatrice Haddad-Maia. She'll have certainly some support, Haddad-Maia. But again, we know traditionally the Brazilians more suited and more preferential towards the clay courts. Next up, we're going to talk about the 13th seed, Katerina Alexandrova. She comes up against the challenging Laura Siegman. Now, Laura Siegman's always an interesting one at the Grand Slams. We know that, she knocked out Zhong Xinwen at the Australian Open this year. We saw her at Wimbledon earlier this year to make a bit of a run. So we know that Siegman can be a bit of a wild card, I guess, when it comes to these things. She got through to the quarterfinals at Wimbledon, again, going down to Sabalenka there in the end, which was, again, a predictable loss. But even then, she took Sabalenka to 3 sets. So we'll see what she can conjure here. She has had a bit of a run, a bit of a start at a couple of the early tournaments, qualifying at Cincinnati before going out to Potapova. She also qualified at Montreal before losing to Madison Keys. Again, I'm not suggesting that I think she's going into this as favourite, but she's got form. She has beaten Alexandrova in the first round of last year's Australian Open. They've played as well in the 2021 Wimbledon. Alexandra does lead the head-to-head 2-1, but Laura Siegman knows how to beat her on hard courts. And it's going to be an interesting one. I think Alexandra will be favourite certainly in this one and her power, but if she gives Siegman a sniff, I wouldn't be surprised to see Siegman dig deep and dig her heels in and try and have a clash. Alexandra much fresher though, just 2 hours on court, so nearly 4.5 hours for Siegman so far. Because of that, I'm going to go Alexandra to get it done. I think it might be like 4-6 or 4-5 here. Siegman will be right in the arm wrestle for a period of this match. But I think the skill and ability of, 5-time tour winner Katerina Alexandrova, she's at her peak at the moment. She's up to the knocking on the door of the top 10. I think she'll get it done, but don't think Laura Siegman's going to walk away from this without putting up a massive fight. Really looking forward to that one as well. And then the final match we want to talk about is, of course, the number 2 seed, Iga Swiatek. She comes up against Russia's Anna Kalinskaya, who's the 29th seed. Last time they came together was at Cincinnati only a couple of weeks ago in the quarterfinals. Swiatek did the job there quite easily. Kalinskaya has had a win, though, in Dubai in the semifinals of the WTA 1000, where she went on to the final in 2024 as a qualifier. She beat Swiatek 4-4 there. I think we've seen a new leaf turn for Iga Swiatek. She's marching back into some really strong form. We saw that at Wimbledon, not her preferred surface, but she is really starting to click into gear now. And I think she's going to give this a red-hot shake here. She had a little bit of a bump against Susan Leymans, who likes the hard courts, a Dutch woman, in the second round. But then we saw Kalinskaya knock over Yulia Putintseva clinically. So, look, Kalinskaya is going to be up for this one. I think she's going to try and challenge Swiatek, but I just think Swiatek, she's just taking her game to the next level at the moment. I'm thinking she, despite having a longer match last match against Leymans, I think she gets this done in straight sets. I wouldn't be surprised if this is, look, it's not going to be like a Wimbledon final where she won love and love, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is a 4-1 or a 4-2, where she uses this to make a real statement as she looks to march on. And as we said, the draws are starting to open up for some of these players. And for Swiatek, obviously, she's, sitting there at the bottom of the draw, looking up and saying, well, who do I have next? She'll take on the winner of Alexandrova and Siegman. And then, it's a possible quarterfinal with Amanda Anisimova, who she demolished in that Wimbledon final. So it'll be interesting to see, should we get that matchup again? We're starting to look at, these things really opening up. Coco Gauff still floating there as a potential semi-final opponent for her, but Gauff potentially matches up with Naomi Osaka in the next round as well. So, and we certainly haven't seen Gauff playing the best. She's dealing with anxiety and all sorts of other issues in her win over Donna Vekic. It wasn't pretty. Vekic probably played as bad as someone could play, and Coco Gauff didn't play much better and got through. Like, they were both double faulting for their lives. It was really poor. So, really intrigued to see how it all plays out. Gauff's got to get past Magdalena Freck, who's, knocked out Talia Gibson and Peyton Stearns. I think Gauff should get past her. We've seen that she knows how to win ugly, but this is going to be an interesting one. Really looking forward to seeing what the fourth round dishes up. Then into the quarterfinals, it's going to get really juicy from here. We look forward to hopefully having Christian Montigan back on in the coming days. We'll do our best to pick things apart, as I said, with some other commitments. We'll try and make sure we're still delivering shows to you each and every day. But as always, if you want to keep up to date with us, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel at The Chris Mack Show. And you can find us at the same handle on all your social media, on X, on Instagram, on Facebook, and on TikTok. to keep up to date with our short, snappy content in between those episodes. But as I said, subscribe on YouTube, hit the bell, and let us know in the comments what you'd like to see more of, what you'd like to see less of, and what you're enjoying from our takes. But until tomorrow, when we'll talk day 8, looking forward to day 7 of the US Open. It's going to heat up. We're heading towards the final 16 in both the men's and the women's, and it's getting really meaty, really juicy, and we look forward to talking to you, all your black and white on sport. No grey opinions here again tomorrow.